The CIA, the Page 25 Mystery, and the Universe as a Hologram. Old documents retrieved from the secret archives of the Secret Services regularly surprise researchers. As a rule, these surprises are associated with the rethinking of events of history known to us, but sometimes it also happens that you have to rethink the scientific picture of the world. One of the basic ideas at the heart of our world is both strange and indisputable, is that the humanity of our planet has two fundamental different sciences. One, the so-called open science, or official, already knows almost everything about the world around us as it believes, but in principle it's not able to give answers to simple children's questions like who are we, why are we here, where are we going? And there is also a fundamentally different science called the so-called secret science, the scientists of which, although they are partially aware of the real structure of the world in which we live, we still need to learn a lot of very, very important things, but even what has already been established reliably is enough for them to understand the main thing, how deeply and fundamentally mistaken open science is in relying on its standard models of the structure of matter and space. And that is why not only answers to simple children's questions, but even the basic understanding of how our consciousness works and how it relates to the structure of matter remain always unattainable, like a horizon for open official science. And speaking loudly, however, aloud in our divided science, according to a long-established tradition, is considered impermissible. Who exactly and when exactly this strange tradition started will not be considered here, because many facts and examples have already been provided in other articles. But what is always interesting to consider in detail again and again is the next emergence of some old and curious documents from the secret archives. For an important aspect of any serious activity, including Secret Service, is the bureaucratic side, which leaves behind a huge trace in the form of reporting documents. And for bureaucracy, most of it does not matter whether the documents declassified according to the law corresponds to the dogmas of open science, or on the contrary, outrageously encroach on its taboos and sacred foundations. Secret documents of particular explosive nature, however, may disappear without a trace from the archives or be lost before they are disclosed. This happens, and happens often, as we know, especially in the cases of UFO disclosure, but since the number of documents in secret vaults has long been running into the millions, it's probably understandable that a lot of things still leak into the public domain in the process of mass declassification. And if any of those curious documents of this anti-scientific kind are managed by internet enthusiasts to track down, they really interesting. Things begin to happen that are interesting. This whole story around one of these events is completed when launched by a document 40 years ago. The CIA report on the Gateway Project. Actually, the document from the Secret Archive received the name CIA Report on the Gateway Project, and it tells no less about the universal hologram of the cosmic superintelligence in the basics of the world in general, and in particular, how this fact of nature can be used spies for the practical needs of intelligent works. And if you find and download this document, several important points immediately become clear. Firstly, the report was prepared not by the CIA, but by one of the intelligence agencies of the U.S. Department of Defense. Secondly, this document does not carry any standard secrecy or access restrictions. Thirdly, it was declassified not from the archives of the Ministry of Defense, but really from the archives of the CIA, and it was made public available almost 20 years ago, and in 2003, and fourth and finally, in the declassified 30-page document, one obviously important lost page, number 25, which summarizes the analytic study, is noticeably missing. In order to make it clearer not only why all these moments in the story are significant, but also under what circumstances such a document could have been prepared in the U.S. Military Intelligence Service, it makes sense to briefly outline the chronology of those events and that are directly related to the appearance of this report. In 1950s, Robert Allen Monroe, formerly a radio engineer, and at that time already the owner and vice president of a broadcasting company, in the course of experiments on himself, began to obtain results according to which sound signals of a specific structure have a tangible effect on the state of human consciousness and its ability, causing such, in particular, effects as a relaxed drowsy state, an active alert state, an expanded state of consciousness, etc., etc. In 1956, Robert Monroe created a research and development division as part of his company, RAM Enterprises, to study in depth the discovered effects of sound on human consciousness. Monroe was particularly interested in the phenomena of sleep learning or hypnopedia. In 1958, experimenting with the effects of sleep learning, Monroe discovers another unusual phenomena. He describes it as a feeling of paralysis of the body and vibrations accompanied by bright light. Over the course of 6 weeks of experiments, this sensation was repeated 9 times, and its culmination was the experience of the exit of consciousness from the body, or OBE, out-of-body experience, as Monroe began to call it. In 1962, Monroe RAM Enterprises moves to Virginia and is renamed Monroe Industries. It developed noticeable activity not only in the field of radio broadcasting, but also in cable television, and somewhat later in the market for the product sale of audio cassettes. Once on such cassettes in particular, the lessons of teaching everyone who wishes to those applied technologies that were created during the development of research division of the corporation began to spread, which accordingly separated into the independent structure called the Monroe Institute. In 1971, Robert Monroe publishes the book of Journeys Out of the Body, which is entirely devoted to the popularization of out-of-body experiences, OBE, that is, the phenomenon of out-of-body experiences he discovered. The book attracted the attention of scientific researchers, medical specialists, and all those people who are interested in the phenomena of consciousness. In 1972, in the lobby of the U.S. military intelligence agencies, a secret report is actively circulating, which collects and analyzes information that the Soviet Union is investing heavily in research on psychic phenomena and psychokinesis for espionage purposes. In 1975, Robert Monroe files the first several patents for audio technology to stimulate brain functions that synchronize the left and right hemispheres of the brain. This scientific state of the brain is Monroe's name, hemisync, from hemispheric synchronization of the hemispheres. And its usefulness, as stated, is that it promotes mental health and can also cause altered states of consciousness. And between 1978 and 1984, U.S. Army veteran and part-time psychic Joseph McMonigal is involved in approximately 450 secret remote surveillance missions as part of an intelligence project that later becomes known as Stargate, Project Stargate. In the relevant secret reports, it appears as Remote View number 1, but this, however, is a completely different big story. 1983, June 9, on this day, the Intelligence Report Analysis and Assessment of the Gateway Process appears, in which Robert Monroe's audio psychotechnologies are examined in detail by the U.S. Army Intelligence Officer, Lieutenant Colonel Wayne McDonald. In this document, the author provides a variant of the scientific and physical basis for understanding such phenomena as the experience of out-of-body experiences, explained in altered states of consciousness. It is to this report, in fact, that all this material is devoted. 2003, McDonald report on the analysis and assessment of the gateway process is quietly and unobtrusively declassified from CIA archives, since at that time both the United States and the rest of the world were completely absorbed in the events of the war in Iraq. Almost no one paid attention to the appearance of this document in the public domain. 2017, about 12 million pages of declassified documents from CIA archives at a time were posted to free online access, fixing the work of the special services for half a century, from the late 1940s to 1990s. Among the ocean of these documents, according to the testimony of the researchers divided there are many that are devoted to working with psychics and with altered states of consciousness. Noting analytic reviews from enthusiasts, however, have not yet been observed on this topic. In 2020, Reddit's online discussion boards are seeing a lively discussion of McDonald's intelligence report, analysis and evaluation of the gateway process, combined with the impression of people who have personally experimented with the Robert Monroe gateway technologies. In 2021, in the TikTok platform, a viral distribution of series of materials dedicated to the same document, but already under the name CIA Report on the Gateway Project begins, which describes not only the secrets of the device of the consciousness of the universe as a hologram, but also experiments of spies with out-of-body travel through this hologram through space and time. At the same time, a mass campaign is unfolding with the demand of the internet community to declassify the hidden and especially interesting page 25 of the report. One of the most curious episodes of the story is that despite the stubborn resistance of the CIA, the lost page was still found and widely published, and without the help of spies at all. But in order to understand and appreciate the importance of information withheld, it's advisable to first read what it is in the most general terms, the actual report of Intelligence Lieutenant Colonel Wayne MacDonald, who directly at the Monroe Institute not only experienced the gateway experience, having personally convinced himself of the reality of the incredible, but also managed to formalize the experience in generally accepted terms of science. For the sake of preserving the proper color of the intelligence report, some of the informative pages of the document, the very beginning and the end, will be provided here. In the gap between them, it's convenient to build in a few comments clarifying the simple and indisputable fact related to the single holographic device of the universe and consciousness. You tasked me to provide an assessment of the gateway experience in terms of the mechanics and ultimate practicality. As I set out to fulfill that task, it soon became clear that in order to assess the validity and practicality of the process, I needed to do enough supporting research and analysis to fully understand how and why the process works. Frankly, sir, that proved to be an extremely involved and difficult business. Initially based on conversations with physicians who took the gateway training with me, I had recourse to the biomedical model developed by Itzhak Bentov to obtain information concerning the physical aspects of the process. Then I found it necessary to delve into various sorts of information concerning quantum mechanics in order to be able to describe the nature and functioning of human consciousness. I had to be able to construct a scientifically valid and reasonably lucid model of the time-space dimension and the means by which expanded human consciousness transcends it in achieved gateway objectives. And finally, I again found it necessary to use physics to bring the whole phenomenon of out-of-body states into the language of physical science, to remove the stigma of its occult connotations, and to put it in a frame of reference suited to objective assessment. And I began the narrative by briefly profiling the fundamental biomedical factors affecting such related techniques as hypnosis, biofeedback, and transcendental meditation, so that their objectives and mode of functioning could be compared in the reader's mind with the gateway experience as a model of its underlying mechanics was developed. Additionally, that introductory material is useful in supporting the conclusions of the paper. I indicate that at times these related techniques may provide useful entry points to accelerate movement into the gateway experience. The most important difference for the U.S. intelligence report is the basic source of information when recreating the new old picture of the world, a picture that's different from what official science paints for us. In the gateway experience, the basic information for the reconstruction of the picture were provided by the intelligence analyst, not by yoga, breathing exercise, and meditation sessions, but by Robert Monroe's audio technology lessons, which in order for people to acquire new information, transfer their consciousness to a similar altered state, but only do it much faster and based on modern technical achievements. Now, the belief system considerations. The classical description of universal hologram is found in the Hindu sutra, which reads, "In the heavens of Indra, they say there is a network of pearls arranged in such a way that if you look at one, you will see all the others reflected in it." This quote demonstrates the concept of the universe, and that at least some physicists are now beginning to accept it is identical and in most important aspects to that of the universe that we know, to the enlightened elite of certain civilizations and cultures of the ancient world. The theories and concepts presented in the report do not diverge from the basic principles of Judeo-Christian thinking. Let's mention the concept of the reality we observe, that is, the created world, is a kind of generation, emanation of an omnipotent and omniscient deity, the absolute God, completely unknown to us in his primary state of existence. And in order to reach the state of self-understanding, the consciousness of the absolute must have a projection, a holograph of itself, and then perceive it. This hologram is a mirror image of the absolute, which is in infinity. It also exists still outside of space and time, but is one step separate from the absolute and is intermediary between it and all creation, all reality. And so accordingly, that eternal thought of concept of I am, which comes from this self-awareness, serves on the one last word of the last page of page 24. The report declassified from the CIA archive suddenly breaks off and then continues to page 26, where the final conclusions and suggestions of the document are formulated. Its unique nature that the current curious public, which was very interested in such an unusual intelligence report almost 40 years ago, unanimously decided that the withdrawing 25th page certainly contains something extremely important, since they decided to hide it from everyone. But neither additional reports to the CIA nor online collection of signatures demanded that the missing page be declassified. Nothing helped. And yes, this page was not there. The spies sounded firmly in response to the public. And just then, as is often the case in mystical films and romantic books, the small miracle happened. This missing page, which excited the public so much, appeared itself from where it never occurred to anyone to look for it, from the archives of the Monroe Institute. As it turned out, Wayne McDonald's report was sent at one time not only to colleagues in related intelligence services, but also to the institution whose instructors directly trained the intelligence officer under the Gateway program. And now, in the wake of the public soaring attention on the audio technologies of the Monroe Institute, they rightly decided that their own publication of the report is in its entirety would certainly contribute to the growth of sales of their main product, now released on more modern digital media. As for the content of page 25, it looks like this. And so accordingly, that eternal thought or concept of I am, which comes from the self-awareness, serves the absolute as a model around which the entire evolution of space-time revolves, in order to ultimately achieve full reflection and union with it. This mental model, which perfectly captures the essence or spirit of the absolute, is fully consistent with the metaphysical description of the Holy Spirit in Christianity. Finally, our description of this entire universal hologram or tour of creation and evolution is neither new nor original. Its application as a form of the universe as a certain creation that develops through evolution is found in the numerous and stylistically diverse representations of almost any of the religious systems of antiquity, whether in Eastern or Western variation. Whether it has a stylized view or the labyrinth once popular in the Greek world, or a coiled version of the Tree of Life of the Jews, it's a Hindu version of the same, or a Chinese spiral of quaternary forces, the ultimate meaning of all these images is the same. Mystics around the world seem to perceive the universal hologram as the same spiral form and build this intuitive knowledge into their religious writings from ancient times to the present. and this is on Solask. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Please support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.